Okay, for the second part of this exercise, we're going to use the same data set, but we're going to trade out our dependent variable for new y and one of our continuous variables for new x2. So now I've formed this model in just the same way as I did for, we could actually do the scatter plot first. I formed this regression model in just the same way, but this time I used x1 and x2 that are correlated with one another. So here is our new correlation plot, our new scatter plot for these data. Now, if I tell you something about x1, that tells you something about x2, right? If I tell you that x1 has a low value, like around 0, 1, 2, then you'll be telling me, hey, I know that new x2 is going to also have a low value, maybe somewhere around 5. If I instead tell you that x1 has a high value of around 10, you'd say, well, now I know that x2, or new x2, is going to have a value of around 15. So what this means is that each of our variables contains information about the other variable. And so leaving out one of these variables in regression is not going to be as much of a disaster for prediction as it was previously. Okay, so let's add in x1 and x2 into our model. This is our, again, baseline model in the correlated case, and we should see that our beta 1, beta 2, and root mean squared error are right about correct. And, well, they are 30.42 for beta 1 here, 19.67 for beta 2. Our r squared, 0.9899, is just about, is very close to 100%. And our root mean squared error is also correct, or essentially correct, at about 10.29. Okay, so now let's go ahead and leave out x2 like we did before. This time, our predictions are not going to get terrible like they did before. If we take a look at our r squared first, 0.9049, we've only lost about a tenth of our predictive power. Our root mean squared error has multiplied by about 3, so it's about half as large as it was in the uncorrelated case. But take a look at what happened to our parameter estimate. Oh, that is nowhere near where it's supposed to be. Now you might look at this and say, hey Paul, it kind of looks like we just took those two parameter estimates, added them together, that gave us the new one. That's not the case. That just happened by chance, and I'll demonstrate that to you now by adding in new x2 instead. And here we're going to have the same sorts of results. R squared fell now to 0.8638, a little bit worse again. Root mean squared error, a little bit worse again, 37.82. And our beta 2, our parameter estimate for new x2, is at 38.56. So what's happening here is that when we leave out x1 or x2, the other variable tries to substitute, in effect, for that variable that's missing. And so that substitution has two effects. One, it makes the prediction better than it was when the variables were uncorrelated, and hence that substitution was impossible. But two, it makes our parameter estimates much, much less accurate. In fact, these are biased. They are inherently going to be wrong. But even worse than that, they're not even going to get better as we get more data. And that's what we'll do in our final video for this data.